You guys ready? Quick little review. Okay, so let's say we're running short run profits. Okay, by the way, we're going to be wrapping up perfect competition today, so if you have any last minute questions, just feel free to ask. So here's the overall market with our usual downward sloping demand, upward sloping supply, dot, 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 P star, Q star. P, little q, for the firm, dot, 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 P star, straight line, demand is equal to MR. There's my MC. There's my Q star.
Hi.
Hello. Okay, so this situation, what I drew for you right now, it's always, always, always going to be this way. I don't care if I'm talking about profits or losses or long run equilibrium or anything like that. Okay, this is always how you start up. And then the next step is we need to figure out where we want to draw the ATC curve. And it all depends on this. Okay, here I want to say that there's short run profits. So I need to draw my ATC curve somewhere special. If I draw it here, that's going to show losses, not what I'm looking for. If I show it here, it's not going to show profits, it's not going to show losses. There's my break even point. I don't want to draw it there. Okay, I want to draw it down here to show that there is going to be some positive short run economic profits. Let's see, who wants to take this? Arturo,
What?
draw in for me the box of profit.
Okay. The box of profit.
hmm
Okay.
The area
Um.
of economic profit.
Okay. It is. Okay. Here is a total revenue, and here.
hmm
Um.
It's P times Q.
Oh, not that one.
It's
Okay,
P times Q is the whole box.
P times Q, the whole box is going to be the total revenue. Okay, for the profit, it's going to be
For.
the quantity times P minus ATC. So you see that this quantity here, okay, it's referring to this quantity here. I don't care about any other quantity. So the reason why you chose this point, okay, is that's where your ATC is minimized, okay? But what you have to remember is I'm here. I'm at this quantity, okay? So at this quantity, I'm going to look for the P. At this quantity, the P is here. At this quantity, I want to look for the ATC, and the ATC is not here. The ATC is here, okay? Because that's where that imaginary dot 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 Q line, okay, that's where it touches the ATC curve. So here is P minus ATC, and then if I draw it carefully, there's my P minus ATC times Q. Okay? All right. So let me just get rid of a couple things there. Let me just redraw this really quick. Okay. So we start from perfectly elastic, firm demand that's equal to marginal revenue. Next step, draw in the marginal cost. As soon as you have MR and MC, that intersection is going to show you your profit maximizing Q star. To see your profit, draw in the down touch up, draw in the U-shaped ATC curve, okay? And your profit is going to be P minus ATC times Q, okay? So it's not necessarily going to be here where ATC is minimized. It's going to be P minus ATC times Q. Here we have economic profits, which of course means in the long run, that's going to encourage new companies to come in. As they do, we have an increase in the number of sellers of my homogeneous good. That just means that the supply curve is going to shift to the right. That's going to drive prices down in the market, drive quantity up in the market. But if market prices are lower, that means firm prices are lower. And now, from that increase in supply, from those new companies coming in, they drove down the market price so that now, for all the existing firms, there's zero economic profit, which means now we change this short run into the long run. Because now, here at Q2, this firm is earning no economic profits. And we could extend that and we could just assume that all the other firms as well are not earning economic profits. So there's no more reason for any firms to come in. Then we could change the story around and talk about the short run losses. I'll go through this one very quick. P, Q, market. Downward sloping demand, upward sloping supply. Dot, 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 dot. P star, Q star, down across. Big P, little q for the firm. Dot, 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 dot. Price taker, perfectly elastic demand is equal to marginal revenue. I have my MR, now I draw in my MC. I have my MC and MR, now I draw in my profit maximizing Q star. So again, up to this point, exactly the same as I drew that short run profits. But now to show short run losses, I'm going to do this. I'm going to draw my ATC here. And again, just as before, don't draw your profit, or in this case, losses box as, here's the minimum point of ATC. It's not going to be that box there. There's no reason to start here. Okay? Take a look at your quantity. At your quantity, pick up your price. There's your P. At your quantity, pick up your ATC, which is here. So here is your P minus ATC times Q. There's your economic loss.
But what does it mean that your ATC is put here, like on top and not on the bottom? What does it mean that
Nothing.
you're not making?
Yeah, it just means that in this case, you happen to be earning economic losses. Okay, so again, like always, your best case scenario is always where MR is equal to MC. But sometimes at MR is equal to MC, you're earning profits. Sometimes at MR is equal to MC, you're making losses like you are here. So it's not about profit maximization at this stage. It's about loss minimization. Okay, trust me, if you're at any other quantity like here or here, your losses are actually going to be higher than they are right now. This is where your losses are as small as possible. Okay? So because of that, some firms decide to leave. We'll talk a little bit more about that today, but it's all about whether you produce or you shut down. But as some firms leave, they make the situation better for these remaining firms. Because now, the market supply curve has shifted to the left, which means the market price has increased. So here's my brand new demand 2, my brand new MR2. Well, MR is equal to MC here now. Nothing happened to the firm's cost curves. The only thing that changed was the demand and the marginal revenue curves. So here's my brand new Q2. But at this brand new Q2, here's my price. At this brand new Q2, take it up to the ATC curve. That's also equal to my ATC. And whenever I tell you that price is equal to ATC, or whenever I compare price to ATC at all, what I really...
You're not making money if it's equal.
Yeah, because what does it mean if price is equal?
Total revenue equals total cost.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Okay, when I say price is equal to ATC, what I mean is total revenue is equal to total cost. Because all I need to do is multiply both sides of the equation by Q. P times Q is total revenue. P times ATC is total cost. Okay? So either way, you're going to end up in long run equilibrium where there's zero profits and zero losses. I'll show you that at the end. Okay. For now, let's focus on this guy a little bit more and talk about why sometimes some firms decide to stick it out. Sometimes some firms decide to leave. Okay. And again, it all has to do with that idea of producing or shutting down. So we have to bring in that idea of the average variable cost again. So where we ended up yesterday, if I draw this nice and big, P, little q. So this is just for the firm. Okay, so here is the profit or the market price, which means perfectly elastic demand is equal to marginal revenue. I draw in my marginal cost. I hope you guys are practicing this. It gets super easy once you draw this a couple hundred times. And then to show the short run losses, my ATC curve has to be up here. So you could see from here to here to here. What does that red box represent?
Everything I earn, my revenue
Careful.
or my profit.
All the money that you're wasting and
Total
you're
revenue.
earning. No, because that's all also the losses. So it's like all the money that you're earning plus what you're wasting.
That's like the profit in total, but
Careful.
it would be negative.
Okay, so take a look at this
Eso cuadra.
distance.
Total cost.
Yeah, I'm taking it up to what curve?
Average total cost.
So this much is average total cost. It might be something like, I don't know, let's say this is something like 230 per quantity. That's average cost, $230 per quantity. And then here's my amount of quantity. Let's say it's something like, let's make it easy. Let's say it's something like 10. Well, if my average total cost is $230 per quantity, and I'm making 10 quantity, then how much is my overall total cost?
2,300.
Yeah, all I did was multiply this by this. Okay, and that's how I come up with, oh man, I hate this. Sorry, the limitations of the whiteboard is I can only go back so much. Anyways, here is the average total cost. Here is the quantity. So if I multiply those together, it's going to give me the area of this box, which is overall total cost. So there is overall total cost. That's the reason why I draw in this next curve here. Wait, this one is nice and U-shaped too, but it's below the ATC, so what is that?
The average variable cost.
Good. Now the cool thing about this average variable cost is, if this was my ATC times Q, if this is my overall total cost, the fantastic thing about that average variable cost curve is it splits up that box, that big red box of total cost. Well, what is this much from here to here? Take a look
The
at what.
total
The variable
variable cost.
No, take a look at what curve I took that up to.
The total variable cost.
No,
The total fixed cost.
what curve did I
The
take that up to?
Average fixed cost.
Average variable cost.
I took it up to the average variable cost. So this much is average variable cost. But what happens if I multiply average variable cost times quantity?
Total variable cost.
Variable cost.
So that's blue box is total variable cost. Okay, let's go green now. Add Q star, add Q star, add Q star. What is this amount here?
Average fixed cost.
Good. That distance is average fixed cost. It's just ATC minus AVC. But if that's average fixed cost, what happens if I multiply it by Q?
Total fixed cost.
So there's my total fixed cost. So this is the fantastic thing about drawing in this AVC curve. What it does is it splits up my overall total cost red box into the total variable cost blue box and the total fixed cost green box. Do you guys see that? Do you see how the blue box plus the green box is equal to the red box? So for my overall red box worth of total cost, where that average variable cost cuts that box, okay, that's going to be where my total cost splits up into the variable cost and the fixed cost.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Like in the exam, let's say they ask us to draw that.
Uh-huh.
We have to do it like in colors as well, because I tried to do it in pencils, but like, it's a mess.
It is a mess. Okay, so they're not going to ask you to draw that for sure. Okay, I would recommend you do it anyway. I would recommend you practice it. I recommend you use colored pencils or colored pens. You know those clicky pens with 4 different colors? Okay, that's what I used during college, and that saved my life. Okay, during my lectures, while I'm listening to all this stuff and I'm learning econ for the first time, I drew everything out in different colors just to make sure that I knew what was what. Okay, you guys could get into the habit of doing that too. It's really going to help you out. Okay, so the thing about econ is you can't really learn econ by watching econ, by hearing econ. You have to do the econ. Okay, you need to draw it out, draw it out, draw it out for it to make sense. Okay, trust me, even if you heard me for 100 hours straight and I drew this over and over and over and over again, yeah, you might understand it, but then if I plop you down in front of a blank piece of paper and ask you to do it, you're not going to be able to the first time around. Okay, so that's why you have to keep on practicing it. So I know it's annoying, but you just have to put in the work. Okay, so I hope now you're starting to see why we draw everything that we do. Okay, we draw in the marginal revenue and we draw in the marginal cost. We do that to come up with the Q star. We draw in the average total cost curve from there to figure out if we're making profits or losses. And then we draw in the average variable cost because if we're making losses, I want to be able to separate out my fixed cost and my variable cost to see if it's worth it for me to produce or if I should screw it and just shut down. Okay? Every little thing that we've done, okay, has a reason. It's not just for fun, even though it's a lot of fun. Okay, so let's talk about shutting down again. P little q firm. P star perfectly elastic demand is equal to marginal revenue. Draw in my marginal cost. MR is equal to MC shows me my profit maximizing Q star. My ATC curve actually shows me my profit. Here I'm making economic losses. Okay, for that reason, I need to draw in my average variable cost curve as well. All right, now we need to decide, should we produce or should we shut down? So again, if I produce, the benefit is I'm going to be earning some money. How much money? Well, it's just the P times Q that I'm used to. Ugh. The area, oh my gosh, the area of this green box here is going to be total revenue. How do I know that? What's total revenue? What's the equation for total revenue?
P times Q.
P times Q. What's this amount here?
Total revenue.
No, what is this distance here? Price.
The price.
What is this distance here?
The quantity.
Quantity.
Yeah, that's why if we multiply those together, we get the area of that square, or the area of that rectangle, and that's going to be total revenue. So if I produce, I am earning that green box of total revenue. Fantastic. If I shut down, I'm sorry to say, I have zero total revenue. I shut down. I'm not producing anything at all. Okay, let's move on to the variable costs. If I produce, do I have variable costs to pay?
Yes.
Yes, because I'm producing. Okay, I called my workers into the factory and say, you know what, produce this stuff and I'll pay you at the end of the day. If I shut down, do I have variable costs?
No.
No, I sent all of my workers home. I shut down my factory. I turned off the lights. All of my variable costs go down to zero. Okay, so I have zero total variable cost here. If I produce, okay, let's try to figure out how much total variable cost I have. Take this up to the average variable cost. Okay, there's AVC, and then multiply that guy by Q to come up with this blue box worth of total variable cost. Am I earning enough revenue to pay all of my variable cost?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, my green box is bigger than my blue box. So I go ahead and I pay all of my total variable cost. I called my workers in, and after I produce, microphone off, please. Okay, And after I produce, I earned enough money to pay all of my workers. Fantastic. Okay. And on top of that, I have a little bit of money left over. Ooh, is this profit that I get to keep for myself?
No.
No,
No.
because there's some other costs I need to think about. I need to worry about my fixed cost. Okay. If I shut down, do I have fixed costs?
Yes.
If I produce, do I have fixed costs?
Yes.
Yes, I
Yes.
always have fixed costs, no matter what. But here's the thing. If I shut down, how much money do I have to pay my fixed cost?
0.
Zero.
None.
I didn't earn anything. I didn't produce anything. So I owe all of the total fixed cost.
I have a little question.
Mhm.
If your total revenue is higher than your fixed cost, it always means that you have to keep producing because
Wait, one more time?
okay, if your total revenue is
Uh-huh.
higher
Uh-huh.
than your fixed cost,
No. If your total
No.
revenue is higher than your
total cost.
if your
Total variable.
if your total revenue is higher than your total variable cost, then produce. As long as you're able to pay your workers, produce. I don't care if you're making profits or you're making losses. As long as you're able to pay your workers, at least, produce. Okay? We'll see why that's not the case in a second. So we took care of our variable costs if we produce. If we shut down, we don't have any variable cost. Okay? But if we shut down, we still owe all of our total fixed cost. Let's try to figure out our total fixed cost. At Q star, that distance there represents ATC minus AVC. That represents average fixed costs. And then, that's a bad line, I multiply that by Q to come up with my total fixed
Total
costs.
fixed cost.
Good. So if I produce, my green box is bigger than my blue box, my total revenue is bigger than my total variable cost, I'm able to pay all my workers and I have a little bit of money left over. That leftover money is not profit. You do not get to keep that and put it in your pocket. Because what you need to do is you need to pay you need to pay the fixed cost. You need to pay for your rent. Okay? So I'm sorry to say you don't have enough money to pay for all of your rent. I mean, that's why you're making economic losses right now. But you're able to pay for some of it. So at the end of the day, you owe part of your total fixed cost. So here's the bottom line. Would you rather owe all of your total fixed cost or would you owe part of your total fixed cost? Part. So that's why in this case, it's better for you to produce. Okay, again, it's not about profit maximization. You're trying to minimize your losses here. You're trying to owe as little as possible. Okay, and just to go back to a point that we looked at before, look at this carefully. From here, let's pick a better color. From here, all the way up to here. What does that length represent? At my Q star, what curve did I take that up to?
Your total cost.
Careful again. What curve did I take that up to?
To the average total cost.
Yeah, so this is my amount of average total cost. And what happens if I multiply that by Q?
It gives you total cost.
It gives you overall total cost. So the area of that red box gives you total cost. But then because I drew in this average variable cost, I was able to split up that red box into this area worth of variable cost and this area worth of, oops, wrong color, this area worth of fixed cost. So that's why we draw in the average variable cost curve, to split up the total cost into fixed and variable. Okay. So I know a couple weeks ago when we started looking at, oh, this is total cost, this is variable cost, this is fixed cost, this is average total cost, this is average variable cost, this is average fixed cost. You were thinking to yourself, why the crap do I have to know all this? This is the reason why. Okay, you're able to pick apart and draw in the different areas of revenue and total cost and total fixed cost using all that analysis that we did before. Okay. So in this case, it was better to say screw it. I know I'm making losses. I know I'm in a minus every single month, but I'm going to keep on producing. It's actually better for me to produce and make losses rather than to just shut down. But there's a situation where it's better for you to shut down. Okay, and you can imagine that's where the situation is just horrible for your company, and it's very easy to draw that. Okay, because let's say that here dot 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 is the market price. So that means here is your firm's demand, your firm's marginal revenue, and let's say this happens to be your firm's marginal cost. Great. So here's my profit maximizing quantity Q star, but to see my profit, I need to draw in my down, touch, come up, my ATC. Already you should see that, P minus ATC times Q. Okay, my area of economic losses is pretty big. How big? Well, what you need to do is draw out your average variable cost. And let's say here, let's say my average variable cost is here. I hope you see how that's different than this situation here. Okay, here my demand curve was below my average total cost, but at least it was above my average variable cost. Here, my demand curve is below my average total cost, but it's actually below my average variable cost as well. So if we talk about whether it's better to produce or better to shut down, let's go through the analysis again. P times Q. There's my area of total revenue. So if I produce, yes, I go ahead and I earn total revenue. If I shut down, I have zero total revenue. But if I do not produce, if I shut down, if I take that up to there, that's average variable cost. If I multiply that by quantity, then there is my total variable cost. The cool thing about shutting down is I have zero total variable cost. I sent all my workers home. But if I produce, I brought my workers to the factory, I have to pay them. But at the end of the day, do I have enough revenue to cover my variable cost? Did I earn enough money to pay my workers?
No.
Holy crap. I earned some, but not enough. So I owe part of total variable cost. This really, really sucks. Okay, this is when you have to tell some of your workers, I'm so sorry, guys. I know I called you in the morning to come out here and work, but I don't have the money to pay you. Come back tomorrow. Okay? I know it sucks, okay, if you're not able to pay all of your rent. Okay, your landlord is going to be pissed off and all this kind of nonsense. But it really, really sucks if you don't even earn enough money to pay your workers. Okay? The rent, I mean, you could beg and plead and you could tell your landlord, you know what, I'll pay you next month. I'll pay you the month after that. Just give me a little bit more time. But you cannot tell that to your workers. That just sucks for your workers because they actually put in the time and the energy to work for you. Okay? So here, if you produce, you do earn some money, but not enough to cover your variable cost. And I'm sorry to say, that's not even the end of the story because on top of that, you still have this bad boy to worry about. Your total fixed cost. So yeah, if you shut down, you're not earning any money, but at least you don't have any variable cost. You still have the fixed cost though, no matter what, okay? I didn't earn any money here, so I still owe all of total
That's
fixed
what
cost.
happened. Like, for example, in Panama in the pandemic, like the place is shut down, but they still had to pay rent.
Doesn't that suck? Yeah.
Terrible. Because
Okay.
people like had to close the business forever.
Yeah. Okay. And so what some of those businesses were doing is they were shutting down because they realized even if they open up, they can't pay all of their workers. Okay. But what they're doing is they're hoping and they're praying that the situation will get better so that they'll be able to open up a little bit later. Okay. But for some companies, they won't be able to do that. We'll talk about that why in a second. Okay. So if they shut down, at the end of the day, or at the end of the month, you owe all of total fixed cost. if you produce, though, you earn money, but not enough to pay your workers. You still owe them a little bit. And then on top of that, you still owe all of total fixed cost. You are freaking deep in the hole. So I think we talked about before, let's say your total fixed cost is something like $5,000. So if you shut down, you owe 5,000. You're minus 5,000 for this month. But if you produce, you're down that 5,000, but you're also down that $2,000 you still owe your workers. You're down a minus 7,000. It's actually better for you in this case to shut down. Okay, I know it sounds weird, but sometimes, I mean, you guys understand this. You guys see this in Panama all the time nowadays. It's better for your company just to not do anything, to shut it down. Okay? Now,
in Panama, in pandemic, I
Mhm.
think that if you owe, like if you couldn't pay and you have a rent, you could say you go and you just give them the key and you go away and not pay the rent because of pandemic.
yeah, maybe. I'm not sure about there, but in the US, we understand that a lot of small businesses are having trouble. Okay, so there's something called rent forgiveness. And for homeowners as well, a lot of people who own houses, they have to pay mortgages, right? They have to pay the bank for however much money they borrowed. Okay, there's mortgage forgiveness programs as well, which means during the length of this pandemic, okay, you don't have to pay your rent. You don't have to pay your landlord. Okay, and I mean that really kind of sucks for the landlord. Okay, but at least the landlord, they still own the land, right? So they're not going to be earning money for it for the next 3 months or so. Okay, but in the future they get to keep the land. Okay, but for the people who are borrowing that, who are renting it, it really kind of sucks because it's not their fault. It's not like they're bad businesses or anything. Okay,
I
it's
have
just
a
that during the
question.
pandemic they just can't earn enough money to pay the rent.
I have a question. So, like, where do the banks coming in, like, here? Like you said the mortgage, but
Mhm.
like, do the banks have something to do with econ, or
Uh,
like that's a whole other story?
it's a big story. Okay, we talk about that a lot more in macroeconomics, so we'll do that next year. Okay, but yeah, the banks play a key role here because they're the ones who lend all the money to all the people. Okay, and when you borrow and lend money, you have to be very careful about what's going on in the economy. Okay, because for the banks at least, you don't want to lend money to people and then not have them pay you back. That sucks. Okay. All right. So in this case, you could see that the company decided to shut down. Okay, producing or shutting down, it's a very short run phenomenon. Okay, let's go back to this. What is our definition of what short run is?
In a short period of time.
What do we mean by that? What is a short period of time? A day? A week? 2 months? What was our criteria?
Is the future.
Mm, keep going. So what was
Like the
our limit to say that, oh, this is the short run?
but
Like
many short runs.
Our definition of short run is some of our resources are variable, some of our resources are fixed. So it's not a set amount of time. Okay, it's a concept, it's an idea. So here the short run is where our labor is variable. Okay, the short run is where our capital is fixed. And that's what we're talking about here. What the fixed? Capital. Okay, it's where our capital is fixed. So just understand that as it's the amount of time on your lease contract. Okay, so if on your lease contract you sign this for 5 years and you promise the landlord every month during these 5 years, I promise to pay you $5,000 in rent per month for 5 years. And then what you do is you sign your name. So now this is a legally binding agreement. You cannot break this, and you cannot just say, oh, guys, I'm having a rough time at this. I don't want to do this anymore. After 2 years, I just want to get rid of this contract. You cannot. During 5 years, you have to stick it out no matter what. Okay? So let's say during these 5 years, for a certain period, you're earning economic profit. That's fantastic. This $5,000 a month in rent, it's no big deal. I pay that with the change in my pocket. But sometimes your business might go through some tough times, okay? And you're making economic losses. You cannot break this contract though. Okay? So in the short run, all you could decide to do is either produce or shut down. But no matter if you produce or if you shut down, you still have to pay your rent. You still have to pay your fixed costs. Now let's say we're extending this into the long run. And let's say that for your company, for your specific company, you've been struggling for a long time. Okay, so for the past I don't know, for the past 7 months, you've been making minus, minus, minus. You've been shutting down your factory. Now it's the long run. What that means is now your 5-year contract is up. Now it's time for you to negotiate a brand new rental contract.
That's what I said. That I think the long run is, for example, like when your contracts are up.
Good. So, in the long run, if you're making economic losses, are you going to sign a new lease contract?
No.
Hell no. Okay,
And
if you're
you
making
can't even
losses
pay it.
in the long run, you're going to
You're gonna shut
exit.
down.
Okay,
And that's why you
it's
don't
not
get
shutting
any
down in the
profit.
long run. In the long run, it's not about shutting down because shutting down is a very temporary thing. In the
And
long
that is
run,
what
it's
I
about
mean.
exiting. It's about stopping what you're doing. Okay, not signing that labor contract, not signing any capital or rental contracts, and just going and doing something else.
That is why there is no profit in the long run,
Yeah.
and that's why companies exit.
Yeah. So in the short run, you could either decide to produce or shut down, and then you just hope and pray that the situation gets better. Okay? But while you're in, let's say, for example, let's say you're in a short run shutdown situation, and you're hoping and praying things get better. Let's say some other company, they've moved on to the long run. Now they're done with their rental contract, and they decide the situation's so bad, I don't want to sign another rental contract. They exit the industry. So them exiting helps you in the short run because you're still under that rental contract. But now, as they leave, the prices go up and your losses get smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay? So in the short run, if you're shutting down, or even in the short run, if you're still producing at a loss, you're at the mercy of the other companies. You're kind of hoping and praying that some of these other dudes finally decide to exit the industry. That's going to help out your situation a little bit. Okay? But of course, if you're making those losses and you're switching into the long run, okay, if your contract is up, then it's up to you to decide whether to stick with it or to go do something else. You're probably going to go do something else, and your leaving is going to make the situation better for the remaining firms. Okay, guys, I think you guys have the basic idea here. So let's wrap all of this in a nice little bow. Let's get a quick little summary of what's going on here. So if this is the firm and this is P and Q, I'm going to draw all this stuff first. If this is my marginal cost and this is my average variable cost and this is my average total cost,
Those are economic profit.
good. If my demand curve happened to be here, then I'm earning economic profit. Do you guys see that?
Yes. And you have to put on demand and marginal revenue.
Of course. Okay, and then this is going to be where my profit maximizing quantity is going to be. What happens if my demand curve happens to be here? Profits or losses?
Profit.
Still a profit. What happens if it's here? Still profit. What happens if it's here? Still profit. As long as my demand curve is above the average total cost curve, I'm earning profits. Okay? Because what's happening here?
A
Ah,
loss
now I start to earn losses. What happens right here?
during the long.
Long run. Okay, because I have zero profits, but I also have zero losses. That's long run equilibrium. Okay, so this is actually a very, very important point. Okay, we call this guy here the minimum point of ATC. We call that the break-even point. Breaking even just means you cover all of your costs. So whenever you're above the break-even point, you're earning profits. Whenever you're below the break-even point, you're making losses. And when you're exactly at the break-even point, well, that's when you're breaking even. Okay, that's where you earn zero economic profits, or in econ, what's another name for zero economic profits?
Natural.
Close.
Natural.
It's another N word, not natural. Very
Milk.
close. Normal profits. Okay, it's where you're earning normal economic profits.
If you're there, do you keep or do you shut down?
You keep. Oh,
But
you don't shut down. Yeah, there you're breaking even, so you're going to keep on producing, and you're not going to make any losses. You're
but
not
if
going to make any profits either.
you're not making money, you're just wasting your time.
No, because at the break-even point, it's your economic profit that's equal to zero, not your accounting profit. Okay, you're still
Yeah.
earning accounting profit. You're still earning money, but you're just earning your opportunity cost. You're just earning the same that you would at your next best alternative. Okay, and it's up to you. It's up to every single business owner to have a stinking high opportunity cost. You want to have a ridiculously high opportunity cost. You want to be such a good worker or such a good businessman that you could have been earning $1 million somewhere else. But if you could have been earning $1 million somewhere else, and here you're earning zero economic profit, then how much accounting profit are you earning? $1 million. Okay, you're earning $1 million here in accounting profit. You could be earning $1 million over there. Okay, so you're just earning what you should be earning. You're earning zero economic profit. Yeah. If your demand curve and your marginal revenue curve happen to be down here below the break-even point, then you're earning economic losses. So now in your head, you should be thinking, should I produce or should I shut down? What if my demand curve is there? Do I produce or shut down?
Produce.
Produce,
You should
because
produce.
if I draw it out, okay, your revenue box of this much, okay, is going to be bigger than your total variable cost box of this much. So it would be better for you to produce, lower your losses. You'll have some money after you pay off all your workers to pay for the rent. But
And what happens if average variable cost is the same, like it touches with the demand curve?
okay,
With the
so anything here, easy way to remember this is anything, whenever your demand curve is anywhere in between your average total cost and your average variable cost curves, then it's worth it for your company to produce. You'll be making losses, don't get me wrong. The situation isn't great, okay? But it would be better for you to produce.
No, but I mean, if it go down, go up a little bit more,
Yeah, I'll get there in a
and
second, okay?
if it
And if
touches.
your demand curve is anywhere below the average variable cost curve, okay, then it's going to be better for you to shut down. So anything here, produce. Anything here, shut down. So here, at the minimum point of average variable cost, that's another very important point. Okay, we're going to call that point we call that the shutdown point. It kind of makes sense. That's the shutdown point. Okay, so anything above the shutdown point, you're going to produce. So here, do you produce? Yeah, you'll be making losses, but it's better to produce. Here, will you produce? Yeah. Here, will you produce? Oh, hell yeah, you'll produce. Okay, you'll produce there and earn tons of economic profit. So anything above the shutdown point, you'll be producing. but anything below the shutdown point and you shut down. And magically, I don't know how this happens, but if you're right there, it's totally up to you. Okay? Because if you decide to produce, at the end of the day, you're just going to be earning enough total revenue just to cover your total variable cost. You just earn enough money to pay your workers. You don't have anything left over, which means you still owe all of your total fixed cost. But
So
if you
like in
shut,
that,
one second. If you shut down, then you don't have any revenue, but you don't have any variable cost. So you still owe all of your total fixed cost. So at this one magical instance, okay, it doesn't matter if you produce or if you shut down. At the end of the day, you're still going to owe the same amount.
so
Go ahead.
like technically it's better to shut down because then you don't have to like waste your energy if you could minimize your losses.
It depends. It depends. Okay. I mean, it would be better for the economy if you produce because you're giving people money. Okay. So you yourself might not be earning anything, but you're making the situation better for other people. They have a job, they're earning money, so they'll be able to spend it. Okay. Which hopefully it'll come back to you so that, maybe you'll be earning more money in the future. Okay. So anything below the shutdown point, shut it down. Anything in between the shutdown and the break-even point, produce, but you'll be making losses. Anything above the break-even point, produce because you're going to be earning positive economic profits. Okay, so they have a special. How would I explain this? Your marginal cost curve has some very, very special ranges or areas. Okay, if you're ever above your shutdown point, so from here, from here and above on your marginal cost curve, we call this the firm's short-run supply curve. We call it the firm's short-run supply because if your demand curve ever happens to be touching your MC above the shutdown point, then you're going to be producing, you're going to be supplying. If your demand curve ever happens to be below that point, okay, then you're not going to be producing. There's no supply. But if we're talking about the long run, it's going to be from, it's going to be from the break-even point and above. That's what we call the long run supply curve. Because in the long run, if you're ever making economic losses, what are you going to do? You're going to exit the industry. You're going to go do something else. Okay? It's only when your demand curve is here or above that you're going to be producing in the long run. Okay? That's the only time that you're going to decide to stick it out and sign a new or a new rental contract. Okay? If your demand curve is ever below the break-even point, you're going to decide to exit the industry. Okay? So that pink line represents the shutdown point and everything above on the MC. That's the short-run supply curve. The blue line represents the break-even point and everything above on your marginal cost. That's the long-run supply curve.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
The points will always be where it intersects.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
so,
it's because I confused with another point, but okay.
Mm-hmm. So the minimum point of your average total cost curve is called your break-even point. Anything above that is profit. Anything below that is losses. If your demand curve is right there, your company is just breaking even. No economic profits. Okay. The minimum point of your average variable cost curve is called your shutdown point. Anything above that, you'll be producing. Sometimes you'll be producing with profits, sometimes you'll be producing with losses. But if your demand curve is ever above that point, you're going to be producing. But if your demand curve is ever below the shutdown point, then you're going to shut it down. You're not going to produce.
So this is how we determine if it's in the long run or short run, because we know that if there's no profits and no losses, it means
Yeah. So you're
long
only
run.
going to have profits or losses in the short run. Okay. If you ever have a situation where there's zero economic profit and zero economic losses, that's going to be the long run. Okay. Good job. So there we go with our first market structure. There we go with perfect competition. And then starting in next week, we'll talk about the exact opposite case. We'll talk about monopoly. But what you'll
Will
realize
there
is the analysis is very, very similar.
wait, can you please go back to slides because I want to take a picture to draw the graph of the when there are shutdown when there's shutdown.
When shutdown is better,
Yeah.
there you go. It might actually be better for you to rewatch this video than just look at the picture because the picture is
There's
kind
no
of confusing.
I understand this
Mhm.
so well. I just wanted to,
Fantastic. Okay.
Tomorrow there isn't class, right? Because I didn't see
Yeah,
it
yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
calendar.
Okay, there's no class tomorrow because tomorrow is Thanksgiving here in the States. It's going to be a holiday.
Okay.
Okay, so no class tomorrow.
Okay.
This is our last class for the week.
Will there
I'll
be
put up your...
homework?
What's that?
Will there be homework?
Yes. Okay.
And the homework is always due on Fridays.
On Thursdays, the following
Oh.
Thursday. You have 1 week to do it. Okay, so
Bye. Thank you.
yeah, I'll put the practice set and the homework set on your spreadsheets tomorrow. Have a good weekend.